Hello everyone. So in our last video, we discussed about variables. Okay, and then we discussed about how to write a program. Okay, in that program, how to take input and output. So how you print an output. For printing an output in Python, we are using print function, and then for accepting input from the user, we are using input function. So and then I showed that how to execute the programs, and then while we are writing a program, so what type of errors you are getting. Okay, if you made mistakes in strings and integer, or if you want to declare some type of data types, okay, different data types. So what are all the errors it will come? All those things we discussed. So in this today's video session, we are going to discuss about which are all the main things are which are all the things we are using to write a program, means which are all the things we need to concentrate while we are writing a program. So what are all the things you write in your program, that functions, so what that function will do. So if you get an error while you are converting from integer to string or string to integer, so if you get an error for debugging that error, okay, what we have to do. So out we are going to write a program. So if you don't want to get that type of errors, so listen here. In our last video, I already explained briefly about what is this as symbol, so what is commands, and then print function. So you have to accept in input. So this print is for accepting for printing an output. This one is for print accepting an input function. Okay, and then next is how we are going to print an value, okay, inside your output function. Okay, how you are going to print the input value in your output screen. Okay, what value you are taken as input, that stored value, how you are going to print inside printf. That syntax we discussed briefly. So and then how to find out the length of more number of characters are present in your string, are stored in your string. That for that we are using length function. I already explained in your last video. Okay, and then how to print the integer value in a string. We already know in our output functions, if you take any programming language, C, C++ or Java, okay, if you want to print any output function, okay, if you want to print your data in your output screen, for that we are using printf in C, and then we are using C out in C++, and then in Java we are using system.out.println. So that output functions mainly accept values in the form of string. So inside string, how you are going to integrate the integer value, so that that thing we explained in sixth one, okay, in your first program. So here we got errors, right? We got errors because of we directly try to integrate or try to concatenate the integer value into string, but it won't possible, it won't accept in Python. So that I explained already while we are discussing in string. Okay, string concept, string concatenation concept. So we can't concatenate to one string value with integer value. We can concatenate two string values, but we can't concatenate string with integer. So in this situation, what we are going to do, if you don't want to, if you want to integrate that integer value with the string, okay, then what we have to do, in the sense, first we have to convert that integer into string. Okay, that integer value into string, and then you can concatenate. So if you convert integer into string, that integer will become string. Then we can easily convert string, we can easily concatenate string with another string values. That how to do. Okay, that I explained briefly. For that we use int function for converting one data type into another integer to string. For that we are using int. Okay, so now we discussed in depth, okay, how we are going to declare all these things. These are all the main things we have to consider, or we are mainly using to write a programs, Python programs. Okay, so this one is an output. Okay, I hope you already watched this video, and then you try to execute all these things. Okay, so now next we see dissecting your program. So in first one, comments. I already explained comments. Comments is nothing but what? Comments is nothing but these are all the information Comments is a comment is an information provider. So it provides the information to the program developer or program reader. Okay, so if anybody wants to read your program, okay, then they have to know which type of program it is, what you are going to do in this program. So that's why before start writing your code, actual code, okay, you have to write a comments. Okay, so if you write a comments, if anybody reads your program, then they can easily find out that this program is this, then they can easily analyze what you are going to do in the remaining part of your code. Okay, that's why we write comments mainly before start writing coding. In first line we return comments. If you open any program, okay, programming examples, there they mention first comments, and then mainly these comments are mentioned while they are declaring variables. Okay, variables. So why, for what purpose they are declaring this variable, for that they mention the comments in Python. So we represent comments by using hash symbol. First you have to mention hash symbol, hash mark, and then you write your comments. Comments is nothing but it's a statement. So what you are going to do, okay, so that thing for program reader understandable purpose. Okay, so but these commands are not executed, okay, not executed in your output screen or not print in your output screen. Okay, only if you want to read your code for your understanding purpose, anybody, any code reader, okay, for that we are reading commands. So Python ignore commands, and you can use them to write notes or remind yourself what the code is trying to do. So we mainly written comments for code reader understandable purpose. Anybody wants to read your, and another main thing is, so if the coder wants to remind himself for what purpose they are declaring this variable. Okay, so we are not written code at one shot. Okay, or at a time or within a time period we are not written. Okay, if you are creating a, if you are typing a small program, you can write that code within 5 to 10 minutes, or within half an hour you can write. But if it is a long program, or if it is a large program, on program in the sense a large for a enterprise level, if you want to create a programs, so that takes 1 month, or it depends. Okay, more time, it will take more time. During the time you remind yourself for what purpose you are writing this, for this variable, for what purpose you are declaring, what you are going to store in that. For that reason we have to write a comments. Okay, so for reminding yourself, means the coder itself wants to remind for what purpose they declare that comments. Any text for the rest of the line following, yeah, hash mark is a part of a command. So here in Python, so commands will start with hash symbol. So after that you can follow, you can type any number of text. This one we call as command. Sometimes programmer will put hash in front of line of code to the temporarily remove it while testing a program. So if you don't want to run that code, okay, for example, you can put the hash symbol in front of any code also. Why? Because if you don't want to run that one, or if you don't want to include that one in your program testing, during that time you can put this hash mark. Okay, this is called connecting, commenting out code, and it can be useful when you are trying to figure out why a program does not work, while you are checking that testing, why this code is not working, why this code is not working. So during the time, if you don't want to run any part of code, that you can comment out by using hash symbol. Can remove as later if your code is ready, or put the line back in. Python also ignores the blank line after the command. You can add any blank lines to your program as you want. This can make your code easier to read, like paragraph in a book. Okay, so in Python, the empty line also ignores. Why? Because in Python is an interpreted language, it will execute line by line. Okay, interpreted means line by line. So if it is empty, that line will not contain any data, in a sense why it's going to execute that code. Okay, so that's why you can leave any number of blank lines and then execute your program. If you leave more number of spaces, so it can be very easy to read your code. Okay, so next one, print function. I already explained. So for printing an output in Python, we use print function. So not printf, print, only print. So this function will accept string as an parameters. So here it will accept string parameter. Inside this function you have to write a string. So print function displays the string value inside the parenthesis, so on the screen. So how you give input or how you represent the string, the string we represent within a single quote, a double quotes string we represented within a single quote. Print, inside that single quote you write hello world. So what it will print? So hello world. Okay, print. If you want to print or if you want to ask any question, what's your name, like this. So that data means what string value you are going to print, that you have to represent within a single quote. Here you see. So after this, they put hash symbol, ask for their name. Okay, this one is first, if you open directly the code, so what's your name, in the sense, oh, what's your name, you directly think your name. But why in that code they mentioned this one, that information they mentioned for asking the user name. Okay, ask for their name. That's why they use this print statement. That's why here you see in this type you can write a commands in this time. If you don't want to understand why this question or the why this output statement, during that time if you write like this we can easily understand so why they are returning this command. Okay, the line print hello world means print out text in the string hello world, that I already shown. Okay, when Python executes this line you can say Python is calling print function. Okay, so if you execute, print function will get executed. Okay, and then string being passed to a function. Okay, these string values are passed to a function, passed by value. You already know function parameter passing, pass by value, pass by reference. This one is pass by value. Directly we are mentioning the value. We are not referencing any variables. Value that is passed to a function is called arguments. So this one is arguments. Already know. Okay, arguments and parameters. This one is arguments. So they just mark where the string begins and end. They do not part of a string value. Okay, so next, input function. For accepting input we are using input function. So here this input function mainly we attach to a variable, attached to a variable. Why? Because if you accept that input, where you are going to store, for storing we are variable, we have to declare a variable. Input function waits for the user to type some text on a keyboard and press enter. Okay, my name is equal to input. So this function will accept the input. You can give any type of input. Why? Because Python is a dynamically typed language. If you give 42, it will store 42. So your software itself, your Python software itself understand 42 is an integer and then stored inside this variable. That's why here we are not mentioning any data type, dynamically typed. Okay, what value you enter, that for that it will reserve a memory. This function call evaluates to a string equal to the user text. In the previous line of the code, assign the my name variable to the string value. Okay, so you can think of the input function call as an expression that evaluates to whatever string the user type in. Means here you can also enter not only a string or not only just you can enter a single value, you can also enter expression type of values. So that expressions first it will get evaluated and then stored inside that variable. If the user entered AI, then the expression would be evaluated to my name is equal to AI. Means if you entered AI inside this while you are executing this one, the your interactive shell. Okay, here we are using spider, that will expect some input values. So if you enter AI as an input, so then that AI is stored inside your variable my name. We already declare variable my name, inside that it will store. Next, printing a username. So we now we accept that the username AI as an input, assume, so that you if you want to print. So in previous print statement we just print a string. Now here we are going to add two things. One is string, another one is another string that stored in a variable. So one is direct value. Okay, you can enter direct string, and then another, you if you want to concatenate and concatenate store string value. For that we have to use plus symbol for concatenation. The following call to print actually contains the expression. Yes, it's an expression. Okay, two things are there. Okay, it is good to meet you. So this one is a string, direct variable you are mentioning, and then plus name between the parentheses. So here if you want to concatenate the reference variable, means already the variable contains value. So for concatenation, that one, that variable you don't put it inside a single quote. If you want to concatenate, value stored in a variable. For that you don't put single quote. If you put again single quote, then it will consider string, not a variable. So directly you can mention the my name, and then this my name variable contains only a string. Then only this print will get executed correctly without any error. If you stored if you store integer, what happens? You get an error. Why? Because we can't concatenate string with integer. Okay, here we get a problem. Remember that the expression can always evaluate into string single value. So if you execute this one, it is good to meet you, my name. In previous example, we take a as an input. Okay, here it will print me in the place of my name, it will attach, it is good to meet you AI. Okay, so if A is the value stored in my name on the previous line, so then the expression words it's good to meet you AI. Okay, so this single string value is passed to a print which prints it onto a screen. Okay, next if you want to find out the number of characters in a string, okay, so then we have to use length function. So len is a function it's used to find out the number of characters in a string. You can pass length function uh, a string value, and the function evaluates the integer value of the number of characters in that string. And then the one important thing you have to keep in your mind, this length function, len function, always gives integer output. It will not give string output, integer output. Okay, so see here, the length of your name is print length of my name, print length of my name. Okay, so if you execute this one, length of hello, so then 5 is print. Okay, in this 5, in this hello, how many characters are there? 1 2 3 4 5, it will print. And then here uh, my very energetic monster just Scarford Narcos. Okay, this one is a sum statement. Okay, here how many characters are there? If you want to find out, then you put this thing inside double quotes, then you print 46. So in string len function, this len function calculate the white space also. So here we mention the white space. Okay, this white space also considered as one character. Okay, and then string always end with null character, that one is also get attached or that also counted. Okay, and then if you just mention opening single quote and closing single quote, okay, without giving any white space or entering characters, okay, then again here also it will print the value 0. Zero number of characters are present inside this line. Okay, see here, um, in last example we print that values. Okay, and then len function. Okay, okay, and then how to print values and how to concatenate. Here you see, if you want to concatenate print string value with the integer inside print, you get an error. Here you see, I am okay plus 29 plus years old. If you print like this, if you want to print like this, then you get an error. Why? Because in this print function will not implicitly convert that integer into string. Okay, so then you get an error. Okay, for that what you are going to do, what you are going to do in the sense, so for that we are using some inbuilt functions for implicitly converting for explicitly converting that values from one data type to another data type. So string is a function, so that string function will convert integer or floating point numbers into string. Okay, and then int is a function that convert floating point numbers into integer values, and then float is a function is used to convert the integer values or string values into floating point values, means decimal point values. If you want to concatenate an integer such as 29 with a string to pass to a print, you will need to get the value 29 within single quote, means then it will within single quote. If you write any characters or numeric values, then that one will considered as string. So which is string form of 29. The string function can be passed an integer value and it will evaluate it to string value version. Okay, here you see how it will get converted. So string of 29, so this 29 is an integer. If you pass this one inside this string function, so then it will convert this one into string, then it will attach string. Okay, it's a string version of integer. So now you can concatenate this one. So the main intention of that previous example is they want to print that I am 29 years old. but the 29 is an integer. That one we need to convert it into string. For that we have to use string function. Same thing, I am plus string of 29. If you call that string function, if you place that 29 inside, passed as an argument to the string value, then it will convert it into string. This is years old. Now it will print I am 29 years old. Like this, you can, by using this string, you can convert integer or floating point into a string value. So next you see that string input int and float function will evaluate a string, integer and floating point forms the value passed respectively, trying converting some values into interactive shells with these functions. Means these are the examples you try to convert. See here, string of 0. 0 is what? Integer. Now it will convert it into string. String of minus 3.414. This one is floating point value. That one it will convert it into string. See here, you see 14.2. This within single quote, this one will consider as string. This string is converted into 42. So minus 99. Okay, minus 99. This one is a string. It's converted into integer value. 1.25, this one is floating point number, this one is converted into 1. During this time, means if you pass floating point values, it will take floor values means before decimal point what value is there, that one it will consider as integer. Here you see 1.25, it will not get round off. 1.25 means 1. Okay, it's okay if you consider this one as round off, but it will consider floor values 1 only. Integer 1.99, 1 point, if you pass 1.99 floating point value also converted into 1. Floor values before decimal point, what value is there? If it is 2, then it will print 2. Float, this string 3.14 within single quote, this one is string will convert it into float. 3.1410, it will convert it into float 10.0. So by using these string functions, you can easily convert string in float function one data type value into another data type value what you want. Okay, while you are printing, if you want to print string values, then you can convert integer or floating into string. Okay, so here you see that string function is handy when you have an integer or float. If you want to concatenate to a string, then int function. So what I explained, that same thing. So here you see they took one example. So they are trying to take input, that input they are going to convert. So these input and output functions by default, they accept the values in the form of string. Spam is equal to input. So this spam is a variable. Okay, inside this they are trying to enter the value input. Now the user enter the input 101. How this input 101 is stored by default? By default, it's stored as a string. Okay, if you are accepting the input by using input function, that accept the input in the form of string only. Output also print, if you want to print that values you have to print in the form of string only. Okay, so 101 spam, in spam what value is stored? 101. So now here you see they are trying to make some expression, they create some expression. So for that here you see they are trying to solve this one, and then they use this variable for solving some expression. So they directly if you directly type spam is equal to spam divided by 10, can it possible? Now in spam 101 is stored, divided by 10 means what? 101 divided by 10, 10.1. But it's wrong. Why? Because this spam value is string. We can't divide string with integer. Okay, so now we convert this string into int. Okay, so for converting that string into int, you call directly int function, what we discussed in previous slide. Int of spam. Now I converted this, what input you accepted, that one into integer. How you converted? By using int function, int of spam. Then the spam value will become integer. Okay, so now you can treat this spam variable as an integer instead of string. The spam into 10 divided by 5, then you get this value. Now this spam value is 101 integer. Before, if you not convert this one, then it one is a string. Okay, so note, if you pass a value int, it convert it, that it cannot evaluate as an integer, Python will display an error. So here you see, so int of string. So if you pass a value of int means string value string into integer, but here this value is string as well as float. Here it will get confused. Why because so if you directly mention 99 integer value in the form of string, then it will convert it. If you mention that floating point value in the form of string, then your Python will get confused. So how to convert? Here double work. First it will convert a string into float into integer. So it won't possible. Okay, instead of this 99.99, if you just mention 99, it can easily convert it. Okay, inside string the integer is there, then it will convert it. Inside string, if you mention floating point number, your int function will not convert. And then if you mention that characters, then it will not convert. Only inside that string, in the form of string, integer is there, then only it will convert. That you keep in your mind. See here, if you mention int of 7.7, then it will convert. So it's not in the form of string, it's directly in the form of float. It will take floor value. If you mention this 7.7 inside single quote, it won't convert. You get an error. Okay, so in your program, in that program they mentioned print what's your age. Okay, so my age, you take input print. So if you don't want to get error, then you have to mention like this. So you will be, first you accept that input is in the form of string. That string, inside that string integer format, so that you have to mention like this string int of my age. First you have to convert that one into integer. That string, you accept what value you are accepting, that one is in the form of string, that one is converted into integer. Again we converted that one into string. If you put that one as an integer itself, then again it will get error. Why? Because we can't concatenate string into int, string plus int we can't. Okay, can't concatenate string with integer. So instead of that one, again we convert that int into float. First you convert string into integer and then integer into string, then only you can print that value in your output screen, otherwise it won't. Okay, see how that program will get executed. So how that will be, that print statement will be executed by your Python. First, what happens if you enter like this string int of my age plus 1 in a year? First it will accept the input my age is 4. Okay, why here we are solving expression? If you're not solving this expression, don't worry, you can directly mention that my age and then you get, it will get executed. Why? Because that my age will accept input in the form of string, no need to convert, but we have to do some calculation. Plus 1 is there, that one is important. Okay, so first we converted that one into integer. String input, that converted into integer here in next step. So 4 plus 1 is 5. This 5 we converted into, we converted into string. So string, why? Because if you directly concatenate this one is string with string, it won't accept, it won't valid in string concatenation. We can't concatenate string with integer. So now this 5 will convert it into string, and then string we can convert it to another string. Then your next step will be 5, this will get concatenated and then plus next one in an year. So at last it will print, it will be 5 in a year. Okay, so in this way, your Python will execute this program or solve this expression. Okay, next in Python, so if you want to uh, check the text and number equivalence, if you want to check the text and number equivalence, it will check the numbers, not a data type. So 42 equal to 42, this 42 is integer, this 42 is string. So integer will not equal to string, then it will print boolean value false. Okay, and then next here you see 42 equal to 42.0. So 42 both are equal. Okay, it will consider the numbers. Okay, numbers, not a text. Here text comparing with number, yeah, that's why it will print false. Here number will compare with number, true. 42.0 is equal to 0.00042.00. So this number is always equal, right? 42. This one number, this one is also equal to 42. This one is also equal to 42. 42 equal to 42, true. This one is also 42. This one is also 42. 42, true. But this 42 is string and this 42 is number. That's why it will print false. Okay, this one is Boolean operation. If you want to check the equality of both number and data type, so then you have to use triple equal to, that we discussed in next session. So this completes your first chapter in your first module. So watch the video and try to execute. So what type of errors you are getting and all. So if you execute only, then only you can observe the errors. So and then if you want to observe the errors, then you can easily find out that if you made any mistake, so how to debug that errors. If you not executed, then you can't, means it will be very difficult to find out the errors. So that's why I am keep on telling that we have to install these softwares and try to execute. So try to execute all those things. So what I mentioned here, okay, and try to get the outputs. Okay, if you get any error, please message me. Okay, thank you. We meet in next video. Next video we start with second chapter.